that was our nightmare in the end. Why we did that? Actually, we observed our father working late, long hours, without having time for family, without having time for any kind of private stuff. So he was doing real estate appraisals. So we thought that we would like to release him somehow, and this release actually was our goal. So what we did, we bought a book, How to Program. So that's the recipe for the success, I know. So we bought a book, and the book was pretty successful actually in this process. So we studied, we learned how to program. But actually that's not wholly true, because that was a few years back. But anyway, in 2011 we set up the company because, well, we were pretty successful in learning how to develop. Our father worked the same amount of time, earning 3 times more money. So he will tell me that's a success, and I have doubt. Well, we didn't get what we wanted, but we got something else. That was the reason why we set up our first startup company, which we called White Lane. White, not wild. But we got wild a bit, and then we set up another company because the first one was successful. So we still have this software that we produced, the SaaS system. We wanted to build something for real appraisers to release their pain. Then we created a new one, which was for a broader market. However, we didn't end with this. And in 2015, I think, we were thinking what else we can do, because we hated IT. Like my computer loves to turn off my presentation. We hated IT, so we thought maybe we'll set up something else, completely different. So, bloody cow. Now it's the cable. Wait. Okay, it's stable. So, will you guess what we did? We set up an e-commerce business in Sweden. Any ideas? I bought a beer for the best idea. Okay? Come on, guys. Do you have any ideas what we did? We were selling something. It was e-commerce, but I can tell you it wasn't the software. Any crazy ideas?
Minecraft skins.
Sorry?
Minecraft skins.
Minecraft
Skins. Minecraft skins.
Okay, Minecraft skins. No, it wasn't Minecraft skins. So, any other ideas? Okay, you have. Come on.
Alcohol after 10 o'clock.
Yes, that's pretty close, but it wasn't alcohol after 10 o'clock.
Lemonade.
Lemonade. It wasn't lemonade. But I like the idea of alcohol, so I will owe you a beer. And I will tell you what was that. We were selling sexy underwear. Ta-da. Another startup, another story, another IT to deliver, because we need to build a system and so on. But I would lie you if I tell that this is end of the story. In 2020, I see your finger and I will come there. In 2020, we set up another company, which is back IT, and this cable drives me crazy. It's not my PC this time. This company produces cash registers in the form of software. So this is what we are now building. And if you ask me whether I'm successful, I will have to admit I'm still working as a consultant in Avenga, and I'm delivery manager. And my main focus is on mobile technologies, especially Flutter, which I love. And you had a question, so I'm going there.
Yeah, it's about delivery. It's like a male or female one.
Sorry?
Male or female injury?
Okay, that's a good question. Actually, no gadgets. I'm answering another question that you may have. of course, female. Yeah. So the oldest story that I will describe in the presentation or talk about is something that it's not only something that you can learn from studying good books or some fancy videos on YouTube. Actually, it's not something I learned by learning. It's something that I learned by doing, which I love, basically. Okay, something new. Whatever. Okay, a brief plan for this presentation. The intro is done, so we'll talk about why choosing the right side in tech company matters, especially in the startup. Then the most common mistakes. Then I will tell you about what I've learned in the startup, in the German startup I worked for 4 years while working in the Venga. We are doing basically EMS application with medical certification called MDR. Then a brief story of this application. Yes, I already told that, and I will tell you about the BLE communication and cooperation with our beloved embedded teams. So, last but not least, Q&A session. So this is going to be the one. So we have 6 points here. Then let's start with tech choice in startups. And actually, you may think about why technology choice matters in startup, and you may have some answers. I'm pretty sure you have. But actually, sometimes it's not what we think. And I couldn't hold myself from writing this. So a startup is like a marriage, basically. And first of all, when I told you about my father, the reason is that we had a dream to spend more time with him. And it has something in common with marriage. You have a dream to get married, you have a dream of how it goes. They live happily ever after. You want to live happy forever. You have a dream. Then, you have a startup, you had to validate it before. It's something in common. Not always. And in both cases, in case of marriage, in case of startups, it's not what you expected at the beginning. But very often, and I wish to myself and to you, that this is the best decision you ever made. So how to get there? Yeah, to get there we need to understand what are the startups, and actually I will maybe start with a question. Have either of you had your own startup? Or, okay, did you had? Okay, what was that?
It's still working, but it's software development.
Software development, okay. So it's a services-based app, okay, great. But I think there are some of you maybe work for a startup or in a startup environment, right? So we know this and that. However, let's briefly go through the challenges that startups face. Funds, so obvious. Reactive Multi-Agreements, Function of Survival. I wrote it at 1 p.m. and I'm pretty sure you like it. How it goes? Like a UI equals the function of state. Oh no, not this one. Growth is a function of money, product, team, market, and risk. And I consider those 5 as the most important. If you pump money, you can build higher quality product. But if you build higher quality product, your timeline is getting bigger, wider, then you are losing market. If you are losing market, then you are gaining risk. If you are gaining risk, then, well, you are losing growth. If you are losing growth, your team is suffering and complaining, and everything is falling apart, because startups, you need to combine all those things and take care of all those areas together, because they depend on each other. And this cable, this time it works okay, it was PC. Business environment, this is the boring one. Taxes, government, regulations, law, etc. You will not do anything without that, and you can move, basically. So this is something you can't, sometimes you can't even predict what will happen. So that's the kind of risky one. No product market fit, and this is one of the most important actually, because I have faced this several times, and everybody that had a startup knows something about this. So what we think we'll do is not something we'll end up doing. We sometimes think we have a wonderful idea, and then in the end it turned out that we were the one who liked this idea, but maybe the other doesn't like it that much, and that's the problem, right? So there is a way how we can survive, what we can do with this. Actually, we can validate as quick as possible. So simple. But we can have a cool product, but not really necessary. So market will not buy it, right? And I think the biggest clique here of the startuppers are they are not validating the products very often. They have a dream, they have an idea, they have a faith, but it all falls in the end. Then, founders. Actually, I'm following a lot of YouTube channels regarding marketing and etc. Blah blah, and they all tell the same thing. Sometimes the biggest problem of a company is the company owner. It's not a lie, it's the truth. So nothing's killed like an ego. Ego will kill all your startups. If you know better, you can choose whether you want to have your product as you desired it, or if you have a business. You can choose. Then, ego. Actually, sometimes ego also stops us from pivoting the product, from developing another ideas, from giving up our perfectionism a bit. So it's also a problem. Then one-dimensional competencies. We all know that when we started learning programming, we were thinking maybe that someday we'll end up with our own company because we learn how to program. That's a shit. It's not true, basically. Company doesn't equal product. Good product, basically it's not a company. Good product is something you can waste. You need to validate your product as soon as possible to build a company. It doesn't need to be perfect. That's a lie. Shares in exchange for work. Whoever is participating in this Facebook groups in Poland and elsewhere knows that if a startup doesn't have money, they are selling their shares. So this is also stupid. Because who should own the shares in a company? People with vision, people who want doing business, not perfect products, people who are doing this on purpose for learning and doing something great and earning money out of this, but not in a way they are replacing their job. Business doesn't equal job. Basically, this is a common mistake people do. Very often I observe this. You need to build a value, not income. Not how much you earn, how much you have in value in your pocket, and how much your shares are. What is the value of your shares, basically, this way. Missing pivot, we are pivoting too much, and I think the next slide will tell you that 55% of startups, business owners, admitted they had to pivot their product, so change the way they do it to actually survive. Okay, we talked about ego and time to market. This is the crucial one. So we need to be fast, we need to react fast. Perfectionism kills time to market. Late validation, team overburn. This is because of time. If you are setting a startup, you need to be confident, you need to have a vision, you need to spread this vision among your team. They need to have faith in you and in this vision, and actually, but it cannot last forever, right? Yeah, and the last one is not that interesting. But if you are slow enough, you will end up where I ended up, with old tech stack that we cannot afford to rewrite. And this list of risks in tech stack choose is very, very long. Especially I like this one here. If you want to have a first front row in season killed by Google.com, you can choose some technology, and then with a little bit of bad luck, you can get there. So it's pretty, look at the numbers, it's a pretty numerous list of how things can go wrong and what can go wrong actually. So statistics, a good presentation to be a presentation about statistics, so I had to find something, and thanks to Google and ChatGPT, I was able to extract something interesting, but I promised that I read those articles and I checked the resources. So 90 startups fail, 90% of startup fails, and 75% of founders said they know their pivot was successful, and actually those are the common issues why actually startup fails based on some research. So the sources are here, but round of money, no financial investor interested. I would add one more thing to this. Nobody talks about mindset of founders, what they are dreaming, even what is their dream, even they do not admit it. What's their goal? They want to replace one job and corporation to another in their own business, and they want to be a lion king on the top, or they have something else. And who they are actually? Developers, businessmen, startups. What is their mindset? Actually, is very crucial here. It's not on this list. I'm not surprised. And you will ask me, in the name of what? In the name of what? Is it worth? Well, this is a question we need to answer ourselves. Because, well, I personally took something from it, from those experiences, even if those failed. But I think the journey is interesting, and all the experience that I gained. And common mistakes when choosing this stack are like this. And I promise I won't read it. But actually, how it is, when I started working with the German startup in Cologne, it was a very tiny one. So physiotherapist wanted to do something else, wanted to scale. He already had like 2 or 3 spots where he was doing the physiotherapist, what they are doing. He wanted something else. He probably know everything about the back pain. So he invented the EMS. He wanted to take those devices from EMS studios outside and even make it portable so that you can run with this vest on you, doing the EMS training, moving without those cables attached. So what he did, he knew nothing about technology. So he asked his friend, who knew, or who knew someone who knows the IT things, right? So this is a common thing. Like we are trying to, we don't know. This is a costly thing. We don't know, so we are asking our friends who we trust. And the friends we trust says, okay, I'm like an engineer, senior engineer in .NET, so the backend will be .NET. No, I don't like Flutter, it's gonna be React Native. Okay, because I spent 5 years in React Native. And I know they're right, basically, because they are advising their friends, so they wouldn't advise something they don't know. Think about this. But what are the consequences? Actually, before moving forward, what you need to consider is costs of developers, availability of developers, the strategy for the tech stack, how fast you can be on the market. What is your time to market? Actually, you have to calculate this. You need to have a strategy for this. How long your backend technology stack or your mobile technology stack will allow you to grow the business? How long? When you will have to rewrite? When you hit the wall? Those are questions that should be answered, actually. How easy it is to get new developers? What I will do if my developers will burn and leave me? How easy it will be to hire a new one? Whether I have a vendor loan or not? So those are questions that should be answered. And the last one, how I will react, and if the need of pivot will arrive, I will need to pivot my product. Maybe I will not do an EMS at all. Maybe it's going to be something completely different. Or maybe, like in the case of Reich, we had a pivot. We ended up doing an application EMS trainings for cancer studies. We left alone all redesign, all graphical redesign. That's application, I will tell you this, I'll show you the screens at the end. It's not perfect. We left alone those things to go to the business direction. Making decision, what I've learned from the startup, actually I think 2 points are key here. Responsibility. So even though you have a little organization like in the startup, like in this medical startup, that was like 2 developers initially, owner, who did the role of product owner, and we didn't have even a QA at the beginning. So there was a few people engaged, but it got bigger over time. It was like 5 years. But from the early beginning, you need to build a responsibility. You need to build some kind of organizational culture of making decisions. It cannot be like you are sitting together on a beer and we are deciding which technology. No, this is going to be Node.js. No, Java, .NET maybe, whatever, Next.js. No, it's not this way. it needs to be major process. And ADR is a document which helps you actually create a major decision-making process in your organization. But in the end, there must be one man responsible for signing this, who leads a role of kind of CTO, even you don't have funds to have a real CTO. But you can afford, I would say, can you afford not having one? Who will be responsible for this technology? What will be the decision? If problems will arrive, then the founders will argue. Okay, the EMS story. This is the application, so basically I already started telling the story of this EMS app. Basically, it consisted of a few parts. Mobile phone in both platforms, that was a previous initial requirement. Both platforms to be supported. Communication over BLE to a kind of controller that was pretty portable. It was not that big. And you had it on the belt, and there was a vest and shorts. And unfortunately, I couldn't bring this because I have some kind of NDA still. But it started with a dream, as usual, as everything. Dream of the founder of making something to relieve back pain of patients. And it started up with this tiny Arduino prototyping board that I received somewhere in 2020. Nothing special, actually. It contains some software written in C, and it's mocking actually electrodes. So it just simulates the behavior of real device. Then the real device arrives after some time. But what is interesting here is this BLE module that is on the side, because that was changing over time, and there was a story behind this. Why we went with Flutter, not native? Now the key point why I love Flutter. Why I love Flutter? Because I spent 4 years in Xamarin. Yeah. I'm so happy it's that. After spending 4 years in Xamarin, writing custom renderers and all the things that were required to build, to make a text box looking the same way on Android and on iOS, I truly loved Flutter because usually the majority of what we do is UI on mobile apps. In the backend, usually there is no backend. It's just calls to the API. That's it. Or maybe some kind of a little database. This is the most common applications, right? So the rest is why Flutter? Because it's UI. Because I can do something once and I have almost guarantee that it will look the same on both platforms, because it's Kia Sharp value impeller on the top, because it's fast, because it's nice to develop and UI actually. But you will ask me now, what about this BLE command? And this is the tricky part, because that was a medical product. And EMS is some area where you can get some kind of electric shock. So the requirement from NDR was that there need to be safety stuff, there need to be monitoring of the connection all the time. So the heartbeat need to be executed twice every second. And there was a large number of commands actually sent from the mobile phone to the controller. So every 2 seconds, every second, at least 2 commands were sent to the device over BLE. And unfortunately, the steering part wasn't a controller itself, It's because the training consists of many programs, but mobile application. So all the timer space, so the control of time, was within the mobile app. You will ask me why, and I will tell you why we had to do it like that. Because you know how it is. You write software, right? So you can do everything. You are like a god of software. Everything is possible, right? But embedded guys are not that super fast, right? So whenever you want to change something, they're opening the patient, looking inside, they tell you, okay, we need to change this part, this part, this part, this part, and ordering of this part will take like 2 months. Especially when there is a shortage in delivery of those parts. Why Flutter not native? With such a massive communication over BLE, with a video running in the background, which shows you how to execute, the exercise, how to move, with audio, with all those sliders and animations. It's a lot for this little tiny ISP, right? Why Flutter? Because in Flutter you have all the packages downloadable, and you can, in the worst case, there was a strategy. We were working on a strategy, we were doing POCs of different strategies of what we will do in case Flutter BLE will stop us and we will not be able to move forward. So we knew that we will be able to run this in foreground services, kind of easily. So that was, it didn't happen, but what? Okay, that surprised me. It didn't happen, but we thought about that. So, and Flutter is not wasn't like a hard stop here. Why not native, you will ask? Because we couldn't afford. That's a simple, honest. And we had a lot of changes in the communication interface. Yeah, so actually I went through this a bit. The most challenging part was in Flutter BLE. And changes in the communication protocol and different versions, etc., keeping backward compatibility with different versions of the communication protocol. Performance was something we had to, take care of, special care about state management and so on. And embedded, do you know guys how do you have an idea? You have your own experiences in working with embedded for sure. So sometimes those are people talking with using different language, basically. So either you need a translator, or you will learn how to cooperate with these people, especially if they are German people. A few screenshots, as I said, it's not that beautiful, maybe. But it looks like this, so we had some kind of registration, so you could pair your device with a controller. Then we had a list of programs. There was an idea to buy those programs. And actually, the interesting part was that your trainer, your coach, could create a dedicated program using the backend software and share it with you. So you could run your own dedicated program. And then we had 5 channels, so you could change intensities of those 5 channels, and then do the exercise like this lady shows you what to do, what not to do, and so on. Well, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. And saying that, I would like to a little bit of thank you and encourage you to be courage actually to continue what you are doing, even if you are failing, because we are all learning from fails, our fails. Yeah, and now there will be a time for your questions. And in the meantime, if you would like to stay in contact, this is my LinkedIn number, everything, you know how to do this. You know how it works.